Welcome to Comics in the Making. My name is Ryan Holgerson. I'm the creator of Slackmatic, and I'm joined, as always, by Levi Erickson. Levi, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm excited to talk about our topic today. It is something that's near and dear to all of our hearts if we're really into comics, creating or as a fan. So I am looking forward to getting to it.
Yeah, me too. I've been thinking about this the last few days.
Nice.
So first question. It's kind of chilly, isn't it?
It's very chilly.
I think that this might be the last really cool day we have, so I'm trying to enjoy it. I was looking at the weather for the next week, and it looked like we're gonna be in the 60s till about the weekend, and then it's gonna be almost 80. And so I'm gonna try and I'm fine with 60s to 70s. I would be fine if we just kept it there forever. Um, I'm not really looking forward to 80s and above. So
Yeah, 82 and no humidity is great, but
yeah,
I know what's coming. We're in the Carolina Piedmont, we're in the Charlotte area, and it gets gross. It gets gross
yeah,
and it lasts until October.
yeah, yeah. It's horrible. It's horrible. So today's topic, though, for real. Sports. Are you following the fun? No, fuck, I got nothing.
Well, we do the weather because we are comic making.
So,
And
so we are doing well, we're pretty sure is going to be a two-parter. So we are going to talk about comic conventions. And so we're going to do two parts. We're going to have the cons of cons. And then our second part is going to be the pros of cons. So I'm imagining this episode is going to be closer to our burn it down episode, maybe. At least that's probably where I'm going to be at. So so I was thinking about this a lot yesterday, and I think a good way to start this subject is I'm going to pose this question to you, Levi.
yep.
Levi, why do you want to table at a comic book convention?
Ooh, what a lovely question. Should I go ahead and start the answer now or
Yeah,
yeah, both?
go ahead, and then I'm going to pick you apart.
Ah, uh, well, I hate myself, although I have other places to put my money. It's a little bit better than just setting it on fire. Um, any chance I get to go to travel, really all I want to do is just put gas in the car. I don't care where I'm going. So it gives me an opportunity to fill up the Tahoe and come home empty. No,
So
no, for real.
you just flew straight to the negative of it. I got you.
No,
Cool.
I want to get in front of you. I want to get in front of you because but I'm going to give you real material right now. Uh,
Okay.
as an independent and self-published creator, I feel like it is my best opportunity to engage with other comic book creators and fans and build awareness for what I'm doing and what I'm making. And they're just also kind of fun, just being there and the experience. And that can be a small show or that can be a big show like a Heroes Con or something. But it's just when the vibe's right and you're, in your little enclave with the other creators, engaging with the people. And it's kind of fun because you get to watch, like, you just talk to somebody, hopefully, maybe, and then they move over to the next table, and now I see them talking to you. It's just kind of neat that we're all having this shared experience around a medium that we love so much.
Yeah. Okay.
There's
So
so much
so
behind that okay you just gave me.
so I get everything you're saying. So why would you spend the three to four times the price to have a table there opposed to just walking around a convention and getting that experience?
So I don't have to walk around.
Okay. So I wanna put this out there first. This is going to be more of the cons, like I
Oh yeah,
said,
yeah,
but we do enjoy doing comic conventions. I do enjoy doing it. I look forward to them. Um, but and and I've been doing comic conventions since 1998. Um, and my first one that I did was the Small Press Expo in Bethesda, Maryland, and that was 1998. And I want to talk about this because back then you sent in a check. Hopefully you got it there in time and they still had tables and you got a table. And that kind of world has been getting harder and harder to see. Now more than likely when you're trying to get into a show, you're first sending an application in.
yeah.
And so like Small Press Expo now, I believe more than half of it is actually curated. You have to be invited, and then the other half is a lottery system. So we're seeing a lot more lottery systems. We're seeing a lot more curated shows. I understand that from a promoter's point of view, from somebody putting a convention together. You want to have a guest list that is going to get people in the door and plunk their money down for their ticket. I understand, but it's also um to me it's just another gatekeeper level of,
Yeah, it totally can be,
at
without
what point. No, it's why when I look at things like comic book syndicates, which are going to be, they're falling apart anyway. But like, there's a gatekeeper that we're only letting these people in, and then you get a patch, and hey, you got in, great job. Also, guess what? There's no money. Um, or the comic book publishers, it's all of this stuff are just little badges that are somehow, trying to make you feel better. So anyway, those kind of curated things, I get it, but as a, small independent artist, it's also frustrating. And I'll say it's frustrating, especially for a show like Small Press Expo, which is a great show, and I'm not saying it's not, but it's in the title, Small Press Expo. This is for indie creators. Also, those tables have gotten fucking insane as far as price. So how are these creators able to make any sort of profit or anything when they're coming in to this show?
Yep.
Um, and so for me, I also have to, I think whenever, so we're going to talk more about business, I think, in these next, at least this episode for the cons.
Yeah.
Uh, maybe for the pros a little bit, but that's the thing. The ultimate reason you're going to table at a comic book convention is to get your work out there and is to hopefully make some money. That's what it is. It's a commercial enterprise that you're going into. Um, so I think it's important to actually look at the numbers when you're thinking about doing this and saying, am I getting a good return on investment from doing this? And
Right.
there's a lot of hidden costs when it comes to a convention. It's not just your table. It's
Oh,
like you
yeah.
said at the beginning. You've got your table, you've got your printing of your comics, you've got your gas, you've got parking.
Yep.
If you're going out of town, you might be staying in a hotel. So at a certain point, you're talking thousands of dollars,
Easily.
and with no guarantee of making that money back. So that's kind of why I was asking, though, why do you do a comic convention? Because here's the thing. If you enjoy going to that environment and it is worth it to sit behind that table and meet some other artists and stuff like that, and you understand the risks involved, then maybe that's okay.
Hmm.
But I also think, you know, if your main goal is to get your comic book out there, I really don't think a comic book convention is the end all be all for that.
Yeah. 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 And it's kind of like pick your poison, right? So I like to do conventions because I like to have the engagement and I like to be in the environment. Um, but for where I'm at and where my comics are at the moment, it could be very well argued that it'd be better use of my time to spend a weekend. I would be tabling at a convention, you know, figuring out different ways to reach people that doesn't incur the same type of expense. But that's also not quite as fun. I like it. Like last year at Heroes, you know, and I had just the mini comic, and I think that was the run that I had printed locally at the UPS store. I don't even think I'd gone to the printers yet. And all of a sudden, a dude just kind of like comes up and goes, looks at the table and goes, "Oh, I found you," because he sees the Bigfoot, the Bigfoot statue and the other stuff, and I'm like, do I owe you money? What's the deal? And he goes, yeah, no, these guys told me that you had a Bigfoot comic over here. And he pulls up his sleeve. He's got like a Bigfoot tattoo, Loch Ness monster tattoo. He's all into cryptids, and he bought a copy and a poster, I think. Um, and although I had other sales besides that one, those moments are like dope.
Yeah.
And so like as we often do, we parallel this with being a DIY like indie musician. Some shows suck. I mean, I guess maybe going on tour for an unsigned band, that might be the sort of might be analogous to being a self-published, small press comic book creator. It's like you're going on tour, no one knows who the hell you are. But then, my answer is like, well, what else are we gonna do? You know, um, we may not make a lot of money or any money rather, but we're going to come back and there's going to be people in all these places, one or two people in these places that know who we are and they'll be looking for us next time. You know,
Right.
I mean, and then where do you go from there? Do you keep
Mhm.
doing that if it's the same thing? Hell, if it's what you like and you can do it, then by all means. Hopefully that it kind of has a little bit of a snowball effect that when you start returning to these places, people start to know who you are a little bit.
Well,
And
I think that does happen. And I've done shows, several years in a row, and I definitely see where, by year 3 or 4, I've got some returning customers coming and buying everything that they had gotten before. Um, but that's 3 or 4 years we're talking about
oh yeah.
of going to this one show. Um, also, is it a good idea to keep doing a show when when you have a bad year? You get into this real sort of gambler's mentality of, oh, I'm gonna hit,
No,
I know I'm
right.
gonna
Yeah.
hit. And then you have that show where everything hits, and then you're like, oh, the next one's gonna hit, and then it doesn't hit. Um, and I think, my big, and I was thinking about comic conventions yesterday and how, okay, with some few exceptions, what other conventions exist for like books? Could you imagine having a book convention? Could you imagine having a movie convention
Well,
or a radio convention?
we owe it to
They don't have. So any sort
well,
of book festivals that exist are generally for booksellers, for retailers and stuff
yeah.
like that. Okay? So most of them, if you're going to have something geared towards that, it's a sci-fi convention
I was
or
gonna
it's a
say,
horror convention.
we kind of owe the whole sort of like genealogy of Comic Cons back to
Hmm.
those like Star Trek and horror
Sure.
conventions. That
But
that's where it all kind of sprung from.
comic books have clung on to this comic book convention. And, and even something like the Small Press Expo or something that's geared more towards indie, it's still it's still this all-encompassing sort of thing. And to me, I just don't think that's where we're headed as a medium. I get all the time from people, well, I don't want to say all the time, but I frequently enough, I hear from people, I don't like comics, but I like your comics. I don't read comics, but I read this one and I really liked it. Those
Yeah.
people aren't going to a comic book convention. They're not. Because they don't read comics.
No, right. Yeah.
So when you go to a comic convention, who are you getting there? You're getting, because let's face it, a comic book convention might as well just be called a superhero comic book convention or a pop
Yeah.
culture convention. That's not my audience.
Right.
90% of the time, that's not my audience. And I get afraid of I think we need to get to a point, and don't get me wrong, I think we all fall into this, myself included, but I think it's easy to fall into, well, that's what you do. You draw comics, so you go to a comic
Yep.
book convention. Well, all the bands, they always play this place, so that's where you go play. All the bands do a 7-inch, so that's what you do. Historically, people that make a difference aren't doing what everybody else is fucking doing.
No, there are bands
And
right now that are putting out albums on like Game Boy cartridges
mhm,
and N64 cartridges, which
yeah,
I think it's great, you know. Yeah. So
but
kind of
I
break.
think yeah, but my point is if you're a comic book creator and you're putting stuff out there, do not feel the pressure to do a comic convention because there's other ways to get your work out there. And also pose the question that I posed to Levi. Why do you want to do a comic book convention? Why do you want to do that? Are you wanting to go to network? Are you wanting to go to make money?
Mhm.
Um, do you just want to try it out? Is this your hobby and you're going to spend that money anyway, which I totally get. Um, but those are the questions you need to ask yourself. And then you really need to consider the risks that are involved in it. You know,
Yeah.
we're not going to go table at San Diego Comic-Con. The price for us to fly out to San Diego, the price to spend thousands of dollars on a table to stay in a hotel to ship all of our books out there, we would have to clear 10 grand by the end of it to break even.
Right.
You know? And so I think that's where the biggest con to me for cons is you kind of you I don't think you should have that gambler's mentality. It should be a thing where you're like, you should know
Hmm.
you're gonna make your money back. And that's the problem. You don't you don't
Yeah.
you don't know that. You don't know
Right.
that. And I get it. You should take risks. You should take risks. I just I'm just I be perfectly honest. I've just never in the last 10 years of doing shows, I have walked away with very few networking opportunities. Or I've probably gotten a few people that continue to read my stuff, and that's awesome. I've met a few artists here and there. I met Herc, I met Henry Udy um, through conventions.
Yeah.
It's not like I haven't, but I probably would have met those people anyway.
Right.
I probably would have connected with them anyway online. So, you know, I think it's important to come to you've got to come to your own conclusion on whether you want to do these or not.
Yep.
And I don't it's not the 90s anymore and careers are not made at a comic convention. They're just not.
Yeah,
They're not.
100%.
Are
100%.
are there special circumstances where yeah, you just happen to meet that one guy and that one guy? And here's the I think that is a lot of new creators' impression is that they're gonna table and that one guy who's a publisher and he's looking for that brand new talent. He's gonna walk by the table and he's gonna see your stuff and oh, there it is. And all you had to do was plunk money down and sit at a table and wait for that one guy to come by and to find you. It doesn't happen.
Yeah,
I'm gonna tell you
yeah.
right now, it doesn't happen.
To the
Those publishers, they're too busy. They're stuck at their table. They're not moving.
yeah,
They're not.
it's the same thing as like if you think you're playing all the clubs and bars in like a circuit, and some A&R person's gonna, you know, happen to be there that night that your band just really rocks it out, and dangle a contract in front of your face. I mean, it's not, just as you said, it's not the 90s anymore. And and the purpose of conventions is not what it was in the 90s anymore either. And what I think is interesting is like, that'll vary from convention to convention to convention. What the reason why that convention actually exists and what audience it's trying to entice into the doors can vary from convention to convention. You know, uh, you know, Putting scale aside, San Diego Comic Con serves a completely different purpose than Heroes Con, which are two, in my opinion, two, two of the most important conventions going for comics. And but they very much like cater to different audiences. I think we got sense of San Diego's, the big news a little while ago. They're pivoting back to comics or whatever, whatever the factors, kind of pull the Hollywood stuff away. I don't think that had much to do with
It was only because they had a strike.
yeah,
That's
it's
what
because
it.
they
I
had
mean,
to strike.
it took an actors and writers strike to do that. I mean, that's it. I mean, and that's over. It's over. So San Diego is going to go right back to what it was before.
Yeah, yeah, without a doubt. And Heroes
And
Con is gonna continue to be comic book focused. Um, and there are lots of other conventions that I feel like are trying to keep it, if we want to call that keeping it real, that are also trying to keep it real. But I get a lot of these shows, you have to open it up to all the adjacent stuff and get the people through the doors that maybe they're not buying comics per se, but they sure do love, those movies, and they sure do love the TV shows. So to get them in, you've got to pull, from, fruit from that tree as well. And that's fine. That's 100% fine.
well, it's fine, but you don't have to be involved in it.
You don't, yeah, you don't have
That's
to.
what I'm saying.
If you're,
Like that,
yeah.
because imagine, okay, imagine you go to a movie convention. It's just a movie convention, and you start walking around at all the booths, and every booth is a different movie, and it's nothing but romantic comedies, and you're like, I don't, I don't like this. I don't like romantic comedies. I actually kind of do, but the in this world, you don't like romantic comedies, and that's all it is, you know. So what I you know I like I said, I don't want to tell you not to do a convention, but I think it's good to have your expectations in check.
I mean,
You know,
pick a show that is right for what you have. Just because you live in Charlotte doesn't mean that maybe that Heroes Con's the best option. We have other shows in this town that come along on a regular basis. There are
yeah,
shows on the periphery, down in Florence. Didn't they just have one? Aren't they just having one down in South Carolina? Raleigh. There's all kinds of conventions. Um, Find one that maybe fits not just your budget and your schedule, but also fits, kind of what you're doing. It may not even be a comic book convention that's the best place for your stuff.
yeah.
So it might be, you know, a different kind of convention that there may be some adjacency, but just see what's happening in your region, see what's happening within striking distance, and look into it, and possibly, that might be the best fit. And
Well, and I would definitely urge anybody that's thinking about it to look local first. You know,
Oh yeah.
no long drives, no big, hotel bills or anything like that. Um,
Well, I mean, you're in charge of your own money. I mean, if you want to go out and do that thing, go out and do it, but just know that it's going to cost. It's going to cost. It's going to cost. And if you're cool with that, then by all means. But that's on you, bud.
yeah, yeah. Um, so
I like
I just, what
I like to get more granular though with conventions. I mean, this is the cons of cons. We've kind of talked about like conventions, with a wide scope.
yeah.
So you want to get kind of granular about some of the cons of cons. You decided on a convention, you've secured your table, you've got your plan, you're going to set up, and let's start getting into some of those details that just kind of like, you know, grind your gears.
Okay, so here's one thing that you're probably gonna have zero control over is where they put you.
Yeah.
So you just spent several $100s on your table to go there to try and sell your stuff. And let me tell you, there is such a thing as a bad location um at a show. You could end up in a corner. You can end up, I've seen people end up in spots where they're just by circumstance, other people haven't shown up. And so all of a sudden you're this lone person and you almost look like you're just someone sitting at a table. I've seen
Yeah.
that happen. That's never happened to me, luckily. Um, but we were next to the bathrooms before
Yep.
at Heroes Convention, which, you know what? I'm gonna argue is not necessarily a bad location.
It doesn't
Everyone goes to the
have to.
bathroom.
It doesn't
So
have to be. I
there,
mean, for sense of traffic,
yeah,
people are coming by.
yeah. Um, I'll tell you the best thing that it's ever happened to me at shows has been sitting or a couple tables down from really popular people.
Yeah.
And because you'll get a line coming to your table while they're waiting. And while they're waiting, they're just looking around and
Yeah.
then they'll look down at your stuff. And so I remember one year I was sitting next to Dave Sim, who you know
It's him. Okay. Cerebus. Let's go.
yeah. We'll just go past everything about Dave Sim, but that's who I was sitting next to. And at the time he was not canceled. And so I had a pretty decent line. And so I was giving people books, putting them in their hand,
Yeah.
and they read it, and then they buy the rest of the stuff. So it was one of the better shows that I've ever had.
Yep.
That doesn't always happen. So you have no control over that.
And there's always going to be that flow if you get that line in front of you for somebody else. Yeah, some people might be engaged, but some people are just like, nah. And now they're just right in front of your fucking table and no one else
Yeah.
can get to you.
So and that's the problem. It can go either way. That could either be a really good thing or that could be a really bad thing.
Yep.
If you're lucky, maybe you're kind of similar to the person that they're waiting for. And now they just, they found you
Oh
also.
yeah. Yeah, that's the stars aligning for you.
Yeah. Um, so that's a big con. Uh, let's see. Uh,
I got one.
okay, you go.
Well, it is I want to talk about the Comic-Con dodge, the artist alley dodge. You know what I'm
Oh,
saying?
sure.
You weren't there last year at Heroes, but my little neighborhood, we kind of were buddies. And I was kind of like, I guess, being the MC of that. And I would call out when people were doing the moves. So the Comic-Con the artist alley dodge is, and we've all done it. You've done it. I've done it. You know, everyone has done it. You're passing through, you're trying to get somewhere. And you have all these, you're going through artist alley and all these creators are just looking up at you, as you're walking by, I mean, best case scenario, they're just kind of like trying to make eye contact and trying to like, hey, what you doing? Worst case scenario, you have a carnival barker. You have P.T. Barnum. Hey, excuse me, you got about 2 minutes. Yeah, you got 2 minutes? Because I want to tell you about, um, and if you're like a s- I was gonna try to think empath or sensitive. No, if you're a sucker like me, I'm gonna stop and listen to your thing. And if you give me your pitch, I'm like, okay, how much is it? And then you say, oh, it's $10 for this one, but I'll do all five for 40. I'm like, you know, I mean, I'm like, it's that's an awkward social situation for myself. Um, that I think I'm starting to get over. I'm starting to learn how to deal with internally a little bit more. And that's why you have the artist alley dodge. So
Yeah.
there are several moves. If
So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
no, I was just gonna say most people I've noticed in the decades that I've been doing shows, if and this even goes if me and Levi are sitting at the same table next to each other. If someone comes to Levi and he buys one of his books and I'm right there, I'm the next person, they're gonna fucking skip you. If they come to me and they buy my books and you're the next person, they are gonna skip you. That it's I don't know what it is about the human brain, but they're like, well, no, I already bought one from the guy next to this one, and
Yeah.
they that happens all the
This
time. You're
table
looking,
is covered. I
yeah,
did my part for this table. Even
yeah,
though there's two different creators with two different products or whatever.
yeah,
I contributed. All right.
yeah.
It's time
So
for
let me so before we run out of time, let me just say the absolute worst con is not selling anything. And
yeah.
so for people like us where our books are we do absolutely everything. They mean a lot to us. This is a part of us that we are putting on this table and we are selling. If you're gonna have shows where just nothing happens,
Hmm.
and that can be a huge, just a huge um just weight that falls on you, and it's especially for a new creator who's never done it before. And I'll tell you a real quick story. I left comics for years. About 2 or 3 years, I was focusing on music. My daughter was young, and then after that, that's when I came back into it. And my first show back was Fluke, which I've raved about Fluke. I've done, and a few years ago I did it, and it's one of the best shows I've ever done. But this first year that I did it, and also I was sitting with the guest of that show. I was sitting next to the big name of that show. I sold one book. I drove all the way to Athens from Charlotte, drove all the way back the day after, or that same day. And let me tell you, when you're coming back and you're all excited and you're ready to show everyone your new thing that you've done, and you sold one book,
Yeah.
it can be soul crushing.
Yep.
And I'm not telling you not to do it because of that. You've got to take those risks, but I could have done without that. I could have done without that experience.
A
And
hundred
that
percent.
and that was and part of the reason I left before was because of burnout and stuff like that with comics and not seeing the rewards, you
Yeah.
know. And then to have my first, show back, that's the
Yeah.
result.
Kicking the nuts.
It was an absolute kick
You
in
know.
the nuts. So,
And you're
how
gonna
much
have
time
to
do we have? Because my timer is just staying at 10.
we have enough
And
time to talk about what we got coming up. And I know you got a new book out right now. So why don't you take the floor, Ryan?
all right. So I've got The Egg. It's a 24-page black and white comic. You can get it on my Etsy shop. The link is in the description. It's only $6. I've also got Bloody Larry and Slime Monster Saturday. Both of those books are also available. I did not print a whole lot of these. I've been having sales all week and don't plan on reprinting them. So when they're gone, they're gone. So
Woo!
get them there while you can.
Get them, get those things. Work continues on the big issue number two. Uh, so that should be ready for my Kickstarter launch, which will happen sometime in June. And there'll be a build up to that, and we'll be letting you know where and when you can start to get uh get in on the fun leading up to that launch. The first issue is available to my patrons right now on my Patreon. So if you didn't get one at the Matthews Comic Con, that's that's it. If you want to see a digital copy, jump on that Patreon, look out for the Kickstarter when that's released. If there is a convention at that point, they will be available then. Hopefully both issues will be available by the beginning of summer. And they will certainly be with me when we trek over to the great state of Arkansas for SpaCon. Um, and that happens in September. But before
Yep.
that, we've got the Rock Hill Library Con in May. I believe that's May 18th. Is that right?
Yes.
York County Public Library down there in Rock Hill. Cool little spot. Good event. This will be the third year I've done it. I think, is this your second time at that one?
It's my second. Yeah.
Right, cool. It's always a fun event. They do it really well. It's going to be on a Saturday this time rather than a Friday evening, and they've even expanded the whole thing. So if you're in the Charlotte, Mecklenburg, kind of Rock Hill, Pineville, whatever area, it's just right there. It's free. It's a good event and it's fun.
Yeah.
And
It's a lot of fun, especially for kids.
yeah, yeah. So get to that one, and the cons of cons. I mean, we've laid them out, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. Just check it out and make sure that you're you're you know what you're getting into.
Make sure you're being smart about it.
All right. With that, Ryan, you want to take us out?
All right. Just do the damn thing.
Heck yeah.